My name's Rupert Bryan and I created this electric Defender. This originally was a 1987 Defender diesel. It was noisy, it was smelly, it was leaking. 0 to 60 was, about 3 days. So I thought this is perfect to do a conversion on. So this entire process for me started off with Domino's Pizza, because I ordered a pizza and Roland Gregory, he turned up and he had a little French car called a Mio, and I was like, that's the electrical car I love, I've been looking for. So we started chatting and he was like, well, I'm thinking about doing a RAV4, converting that to fully electric. And I was like, well, hang on, you're doing it? He said, I have 2 physics degrees. Both grandparents were very acclaimed and successful physicists. So really, a brilliant brain. I said, look, if you get this done, I kind of want to build my own, but I really want a Defender. I said, look, if this car is MOT'd and taxed and insured, let's do it. So that's what we did. This is a project that I started about 5 years ago. The process is stripping out all the combustion parts, so the engine, the tank, actually the transmission, the gearbox, kind of all the running gear to a certain extent. And actually, fundamentally, you're left with a shell, a chassis and a shell. So the second part is finding a donor vehicle. And actually, it was a 2013 Ford Connect van. We stripped out everything from that, all the components that made that electrical system, and ultimately put it into this. So when we started, I didn't really have a workshop. I thought the best solution was to put up a tent. It wasn't the best workshop in the world, snow, rain, all the elements kind of hit it hard. We think that's partly killed some of the electronics. I kind of had to get another donor vehicle. It was 2014 another Ford Connect van. We upcycled and we recycled the other parts that could be sold off. We didn't need the second round of batteries, the BMS system. There's a few bits we didn't need from it. 2 donor vehicles in, we've got some issues with the batteries. It doesn't like talking to its current battery management system. We don't know why. So the solution was to take the vehicle to Going Green in Hayes, who've been servicing and fixing electric vehicles for over 20 years. Alex and James and the gang managed to readjust the flux capacitor, and on we went. We then got to a point where the only solution was to get a third vehicle, and actually we had the original vehicle that we did, which was the RAV4, and taking the parts out of that and using it into this. There's been a string of challenges. Literally non-stop. Every single month, every single week, there was something that's been a problem. One of the biggest issues, not having a proper workshop. It sounds basic, but actually somewhere dry, well lit, quiet, to focus and concentrate when you're doing a job like this. I really understand how important it is. I didn't have lots of funds either. I've had to start and stop because kind of running out of money and starting again, trying to find parts, track parts, dead ends, just not working out, parts not being delivered, parts delivered that weren't working, returning parts. Safety, you're dealing with high voltage, something that I can't stress enough. Safety is of utmost importance, because one mistake and you've had it. So ultimately you've got to make sure the car is safe and tested. This was taken to Millbrook testing ground. They spent 2 days just literally making sure this car is safe, poking kind of a metal finger in places, taking all kind of the measurements for the kind of electrical current to make sure the car is safe. Okay, the Defender is having its R100 test. The team are investigating, probing, pointing, trying to find any electrical faults with it. So far, so good. A couple of little things have got to be done, but I'd say they're all fairly impressed with it. There's only a few places actually in the UK that you can take this R100 test, and Millbrook, based in Milton Keynes, is one of them. Depending on the complexity of your conversion, then this will dictate how much the cost is. It's best to get in touch with them to get a quote directly. But the Defender needed a few amends, including a green ready light on the dashboard, and it needed an audio signal to let us know that the door was open when in active mode. However, once those tweaks have been done, we got our certificate and we carried on with our adventure. It's just a lengthy process. It's a project vehicle. Had I thought about it, I probably wouldn't have started it, if I'm absolutely honest. That's probably one of the things I think, really knowing the headache and the not just financial, the emotional and spiritual issues that we sort of had to finish this car. This has been an incredible process. It's been great fun, overcoming those challenges at certain points. So I think, this project, I started off with a lot of naivety. I didn't understand really how to do this. I just had a want and a desire to have an electric Defender. It's the naivety about entering into something you don't know. Sometimes that's what propels you forward and actually gets you moving into that space. I was determined to do this. There was probably 100 times it was like, this is just ridiculous, stop it. I was kind of spending all my spare cash on a project. I had no idea if I could get this going, but it's going. On that journey, I met Richard from Electric Classic Cars. became hugely inspired the moment I went to his home, where he had pretty much a 2-car garage that he was doing the conversions from, and I was like, this is amazing. But I was like, look, this should be a TV show. So I created Vintage Voltage, which is on Quest. We've had a couple of seasons. Yeah, it's a technical show, and it kind of follows Richard and his process on converting various different classics. I remember we were in our old house in the driveway, and I remember literally, this was after about 2.5, 3 years, the reduction box had finally come back. We put it in, and literally it was a case of turning on to seeing, is this thing going to move or not? And I remember just literally turning it on, and the excitement of being in a vehicle, you know, that we'd built and moved is an amazing feeling. This whole process, it takes me back to, you know, when I'm age 13, you know, building, you know, Tamiya radio controlled cars. The process of building a car, putting the electrics in, putting the batteries and motors in, and it moving. It's almost the same sort of feeling, you know, like 30 something years later, I'm like built an electric vehicle that I can sit in and drive and move. It's brilliant. I mean, I'm taking credit for, you know, everyone else has basically made this happen, and I've just helped orchestrate it and facilitate it. But being part of this process and trying to find solutions, overcome all these hurdles, like any project, I think is something that's, you know, it's great fun to do, it's important to do, but finishing it is even better. We now are in a position, I've got to take the car to have an IVA test, which is kind of a new car test. We did some welding to a battery box, and they said, that's no good, that's a significant change. But we're okay, we're gonna get through that too, aren't we? So I hope you've enjoyed the journey so far, compacted into just 5 minutes from 5 years. For further updates, follow Electrifying Classics on Instagram, or subscribe to this channel to stay informed about new converters and the latest developments on the IVA test.